Lysandra was unique, born into an interdimensional cosmos where the lives of beings from every realm were intertwined through an ethereal thread known as the Strand of Eternity. She was a weaver, an artisan of reality, with the awe-inspiring ability to manipulate these threads, an alchemical blend of craft and responsibility demanding exactness and empathy. Her fingers danced over the iridescent strands sprawled before her, each representing a life from myriad dimensions. The strands pulsed gently, resonating with the rhythm of existence, a ceaseless symphony of the universe's heartbeat. For a weaver like Lysandra, these were not mere luminous threads, but conduits carrying the substance of life itself, as palpable as the air she breathed, as intimate as her own thoughts. Lysandra inhabited an arcane world, nestled in the heart of this interdimensional cosmos. It was a world steeped in tranquility, untouched by the ravages of time, unmarked by the boundaries of physical space, a haven where weavers like her curated harmony within the interconnected dimensions. Her tranquil day-to-day was jolted abruptly as the serenity of her workspace splintered. A rogue disturbance sent ripples cascading through the strand, setting a discordant ripple in motion. A perturbation of this magnitude was a rare anomaly. Sensing the urgency, the elders called upon Lysandra. Although amongst the youngest, she was hailed as the most gifted weaver, unequalled in her understanding of the strand, and exceptional in her control. As she entered the grand ether hall, the elders outlined the uncertainty at hand. The tangle of strands reverberated ominously, the rogue wave disrupting the universal harmony. Unfazed by the chaotic weave before her, she approached it as a maestro before a symphony. She knew the power that lay in her hands. It was easy to forget as she ambled through serene groves and bathed under ethereal waterfalls. Now, confronting the anomaly, she was reminded once again. Lysandra proceeded unerringly, her intuition guiding her. As her fingers met the rebellious strands, she felt its coarse dissonance, like a scream in the quiet. The rogue strand was undulating uncontrollably, a wild serpent rearing its head. Her fingers began their well-rehearsed dance, but as she attempted to calm it, her grip faltered. There was a crack, like the shattering of a cosmic mirror, amplified 1,000,000 times. A shockwave blazed through the ether hall as the rogue strand snapped violently, grazing through Lysandra's very own strand. A piercing pain tore through her. It felt as if she was being ripped away from herself. As she grappled with the searing adversity, her world dissolved into kaleidoscopic fragments. What she perceived to be constant and eternal disintegrated around her, and darkness took over. An unintentional cut was never an eventuality for a weaver. It was not supposed to happen, yet it had. When she woke, she was not in the world she knew. The air, the surroundings, even the complexion of reality felt altered. She was on a crowded street, in an alternate dimension, amidst a clamour she was foreign to. She scanned her surroundings, the stark buildings, the indifferent faces, the starkly blue sky. Her heart pounded. She was a weaver, a puppeteer of dimensions. But now, stranded in an unfamiliar world, she was just like any other. Lost, cornered, and powerless. But the greatest shock of all was the realization of who she was in this reality. A rebellious leader, adorned in rugged gear, fighting a war that her original self had never known. Adapting to abrupt changes amidst the chaos of her new reality wasn't a part of Lysandra's itinerary. Yet there she was, in a shell of her alternate persona, a defiant agitator in a world buckling under a brutal regime. Around her were people who looked at her with respect and expectation, people who called her their leader. Yet inside, the weaver was terrified, charging through uncharted territory. This dimension, characterized by its tangible reality and feral conflict, was worlds apart from her quiet cosmos. Struggling to adjust to her new skin, Lysandra attempted to use her strand-weaving abilities, but to no avail. Her touch was aimless, her connection to the strand seemingly severed. Without her weaver's sensitivity, the strand felt not like vibrant threads of existence, but like lifeless strings. However, there was little time to grieve her lost abilities. A sudden alarm blared, ushering in a wave of panic. Clouds of smoke and wails of alarm filled the air. She was swept up in the torrent of bodies towards a fortified bunker. It seemed the regime she was opposing had launched another suppressive attack. She was expected to devise a counterattack, but Lysandra was out of her elements, paralyzed by the torment around her. Pushed to her limits, she inadvertently tapped into a well of raw instinct within her new persona. Drawing from the pool of the alternate Lysandra's experience, she quickly devised an ingenious tactical move which, although aggressive, would push back the adversarial force. Analyzing the newfound strategic prowess, she reflected on how profoundly dimensions could alter one's existence. The peaceful weaver from her primary dimension would have renounced any form of conflict, but the fighter in her new dimension was corralling an insurrection. But as days morphed into weeks, Lysandra found herself merging with this new reality. She no longer felt like a mere guest wearing a borrowed persona. She started to feel the wildfire of rebellious spirit within her, fueling her will to fight the oppressive regime. Ironically, amidst it all, she also felt a profound sense of loss. She yearned for her tranquil cosmos, the luminescent strand, her divine role as a weaver. Here, she was a mere warrior, battling a dark world armed with nothing but resilient resolve. Little did she know, her battles were far from over, and a shocking revelation awaited her. Unseasoned winds blew in shadows of change across the cityscape. The war between the rebel forces led by Lysandra and the oppressive regime had reached a feverish pitch. Yet amid the escalation of combats and countermoves, the reality she had adapted to would soon unveil an unsettling shock. It was the dead of night. Lysandra was caught in intense strategizing sessions. Light from the glow jars filtered through the crude maps spread out before her, the indistinct contours of the cityscape barely visible. Her eyes scanned their target, a heavily guarded compound, the pulsating heart of the oppressive regime. As she studied their defenses, she noticed one particularly distinctive signature. A cold trepidation seized her. The signature bore an uncanny resemblance to a weaver's energy pattern. Her eyes widened, disbelief and denial merging on her face. How could a weaver be here in this violent primal reality? Their roles lay far from such powerless realms. Their canvas was the arcane cosmos, weaving strands of existence, gently nudging the course of dimensions. But as she traced the patterns, the truth fell into place like a shard of multifold glass. The oppressive regime was being managed by an interdimensional weaver. A shadowed memory emerged from her subconscious, a disgraced mentor from her world, banished for manipulating dimensions for personal gratification. The parallels were too conspicuous to dismiss. The mentor's energy signature was here, twisted into the oppressive regime's power source. His exile from their cosmos had not removed his power, but rather redirected it. In a different time and space, her mentor had morphed into an oppressor, harnessing his power to suppress a dimension rather than preserve it. As if her new reality wasn't jolting enough, Lysandra now saw it through a chilling prism. She felt a surge of responsibility for the tyranny instigated by one of her kind. As an overwhelming sense of betrayal cut through her disillusionment, her once mentor seemed an irredeemable monster. She reasoned that the rogue disturbance that landed her in this place must be his creation, an intricate scheme for power that sent ripples across dimensions. She had always seen the strand of eternity as a canvas of harmony. Now, realizing it was also dubiously apt for chaos, she felt sickened. Determined not to stand by and see a dimension puppeteered by a weaver's whims, she decided to face him. Lysandra was now a fighter, in more ways than one. Ignited by the will to restore the cosmic balance, she vowed to wage a war that she had never imagined she'd be part of. The revelation of her mentor's sinister turn rattled Lysandra's resolve. Between gathering her courage and devising a daring plan to confront the tyrant, she was engulfed in a whirlwind of determination and trepidation. The final battle was imminent and fraught with uncertainty, but she had no choice. The city, once vibrant under a cerulean sky, had transformed into a groaning battlefield. Strewn with the aftermath of countless combats, it bore scars that spoke volumes of the ongoing war. Lysandra, the reluctant leader turned defiant rebel, made her way to her mentor's stronghold. Slyly evading sentries, manipulating security capacities with a guile, she drew on everything she learned here. All the while, her weaver instincts lurked beneath the surface, dormant and yearning to be useful in this hour of need. Standing at last at her mentor-turned-tormentor's fortress, she was a beacon of mutiny against an evil that had shaken multiple dimensions. Untouched by the seismic shift in her existence, Her mentor was unrecognizable in his ominous diadem, his being echoing authority, deceit, and unfettered power. Gone was the kind eyes and humble countenance, replaced by cold ruthlessness. The confrontation was neither quiet nor serene. An energy blast echoed through the expansive hall. Lysandra stood her ground, narrowly evading a potent energy beam by a hair's breadth. Her mentor, shocked at first to recognize her, seemed then amused by her defiance, underestimating her spirit as a weakness. Each attack she deflected, each offensive she mounted, was a blow to his ego. When her mentor accused her of treachery, of bringing the cosmic war into a primitive world, she howled against his arrogance, throwing his betrayal back. The serenity of their cosmic world felt far away in this battlefield, drowned under the roar of chaos. With her resilience unwavered, she struck one final shot. Lysandra wasn't a warrior of weapons, she was a warrior of spirit. She stumped him by tapping into her severed weave, igniting it with her spirit's fire. An ethereal bridge erupted, connecting her with the strands, rumbling with cosmic energy, and then she rewove. The effect rippled throughout the fortress, tearing holes through dimensions, causing the tyrant to stagger as the oppressive regime's power source swelled and flickered, threatening to snap. The regime's stronghold imploded in slow motion, mirroring the downfall of a monstrous reign. The battle exhausted her, her energy sapped. She looked at the disoriented mentor, a vestige of his former formidable self. It wasn't sweet victory, but the solemn justice of a weaver. She knew the battle was won, but the war, her war, was just beginning. The closing of this dimensional saga was neither bathed in sunlight nor laced with celebratory joy. Instead, it happened in a forceful hush, a silent fallout of a grand cosmic anomaly. Lysandra, drained yet poised, bent over the fading embers of her mentor's oppressive power source. With meticulous precision and preserved energy, she reached out and reconnected the frayed ends of the dimension's threads. Mending the dimensional weave, she could feel her control reinstating, and her instincts telling her that order had been restored once more. With a final gasp of energy, she reached for her strand, severed and silent for what felt like eons. Holding the two ends of her own existence, she gently caressed them together. A brilliant burst of luminescent light enveloped her as she felt the two ends merge, becoming a single, pulsating strand once again. When she next opened her eyes, she was back in her original dimension, standing in the midst of the elders. Their relief was palpable, but also mixed with a foreboding sense of what had transpired within the confines of the other reality. The victory had come with a price. Her once mentor was arrested, and the dimension, she hoped, was on a path of recovery. Yet, despite the semblance of peace, she couldn't shake off the weight of what had unfolded. She had vanquished a tyrant, restored a dimension, and returned to her tranquil world. But the twist was in the aftermath, the change within. The once peace-endorsing weaver now returned with a hardened resolve, profoundly changed by her experiences as the rebel leader. She had crossed from the tranquility of her peaceful cosmos into the realm of carnage and despair, and emerged victorious. Her perspective on her role as a weaver of reality was irrevocably altered, from a mere preserver to an ardent protector, vigilant against the manipulation of dimensions. As a transformed Lysandra looked upon her labors in the aether, she made a silent vow. She would change the weaver's path, from passive artisans of existence to fierce guardians of balance, a lasting, interdimensional reminder of her strand's accidental snip and its transformative aftermath.